What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of What the L. I'm your host, Elle Kramer, and today I am with a very, 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 very special guest, Boost.
Hey, Boost.
Hey, Boost.
So excited to be here.
I'm so excited for you to
It's
be
been
here.
a long time coming.
Yeah, we did actually try to record this episode a few days ago, and I ended up violently throwing up in the middle of it. So we're trying again. We're going to do a second rerun of this. We were supposed to be talking about just like Valentine's Day and being single on Valentine's Day, but since Valentine's Day has kind of passed and made its mark, we feel like
It's old news.
yeah, that's old news. It would be more impactful to make an episode about just like what dating in 2024 is like, because that has its whole ordeal.
Talk about that for a while.
Yeah, we could. But before I get too ahead of myself, allow me to introduce you to my best friend, Boost. And the reason that she's called Boost, her name's actually Cameron, but I call her Boost, and she calls me Boost.
Can be used interchangeably.
Do you-
I think what people never understand whenever we try to tell them this. They're like, what? Okay. But basically, it's really not that deep. It's just one day we were texting each other and we used to address each other as bestie, and I would send one text that said bestie and then finish my thought. But one day it just kind of auto-corrected to boosty, and I don't know why it did that, but it just kind of stuck from there on out. And then we came up with some different versions of the word, I guess, like boost and boost this and
Yeah, Boosty,
boost,
like
boots,
all kinds of things. It's been a very
just
interesting.
kind of roll with it.
Yeah, we definitely just go with it. And so, without further ado, actually, should we recap? I guess I should give y'all some life updates. I'm kind of sick right now, so if I sound like I'm dying, it's because I kind of am. But it's okay. We're still here, and we still ball. I got a booster shot this morning. and and you know, I don't have COVID or the flu or strep, so, and all three of those were going around, so I'm glad that Mardi Gras did not get me. I thought I almost had like the frat flu or something. That was really bad. But I was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras for 5 days, Tulane Mardi Gras. It was crazy. It was like a Cajun Coachella, and yeah, so I'm still recovering, feeling a little bit under the weather, but alas, here we are. And
Sometimes a charm.
so I guess with like the first like topic of this, I just kind of want to get into like the digital aspect of dating in 2024, because I feel like that in itself plays a huge impact on what dating is like, and like going through like the dating app experiences and the quick ads.
Oh gosh.
So I don't know, I kind of just want to touch upon those things. Do you have any
Yeah.
You have any experience on? No, I feel like the only dating experience you have, no, the only online dating app experience you have is whenever you were bored and like I was doing it and you're like, okay, well,
Right.
I need something to do. So then you would download it.
Right. Well, so I actually never downloaded a dating app necessarily. Like I never got on Tinder or Bumble or Hinge or things like that. It was tempting. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, when I was bored, I was like, what else am I going to do right now? And then I would see you on it and I was like, that looks kind of fun. Like what other easy way is there to kind of meet people, I guess? I don't know. I never really fell into it, except like a different kind of version of that, the Snapchat quick ads.
Oh,
That's
God.
like a whole different realm in itself, I feel like, because not only can you not really see the person's profile whenever they add you or you add them, unless they have like a set one,
Like a
in their
public
bio.
profile.
Yeah. That's kind of scary, to be honest. The amount of like
They send you
bots
that
will add me.
WYLL, they hit you with that what you look like immediately.
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, I can't
age,
do this again.
hometown, WYLL. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
oh gosh. Okay, like what happened to hey, hello? How
Yeah,
are you?
what happened to all three of those?
But I didn't start really giving any attention to that until it started happening. There was one, I think it was maybe a year ago, we were sitting in my bed and I was like, how do you have that many people on Snapchat? Like, how do you know that many boys?
I do not anymore.
Yeah.
I did a cleansing.
You said it was quick ad, and I had never even thought to go look at my little
Most
quick ad
people
list.
don't. Like most
Yeah.
sane people don't do this, but for some reason I was like, okay, this is like a Russian roulette almost. Like, that's what it literally is, because like from
for
Quick
sure.
Ad you have
Never
like
know
you
what you're
can
gonna
see
get.
some things like
Oh gosh.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so then whenever you had kind of introduced me to that, I started like serial quick adding, and I was just like, you know what, maybe one of these is from around here, maybe one of them's actually good. Like, if I'm not gonna get a dating app, I guess this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I started doing that, it's like the algorithm kind of caught on. I don't know how you would describe it, but I started getting like people adding me first. Like, it wasn't me just going through and quick adding people. It turned into other people adding me via quick ad, because Snapchat tells you how they add you. And I'll just go here and there and add a few, get the same 3-step process. What's your age? What school do you go to? Are you in school? What do you look like? And that's usually about the extent of it. Unless they're from around here, then sometimes can kind of be like, oh, well, what are you doing this weekend? Like, maybe we could see each other. I don't know.
It really just depends, but
Like, if you're in the same state, at least.
yeah, I'll sometimes get some dude from like freaking New Jersey or like Toronto.
No, literally. Like, why are all of them, like, none of them are from Louisiana?
Yeah, but it's a dangerous game, and it's a good game to not ever start.
Yeah, no, I definitely, looking back,
Don't recommend.
I was not really missing out on anything. No, I don't. 0 out of 10 recommend, actually. Nothing really permanent or good has come from it. I guess it's fun when you're bored, but it's about the extent of it.
Yeah.
I think it's better to just meet someone
Organically.
organically.
Yep.
And but that's also kind of my fault, because at the time I was just like expecting my future husband to just like walk onto my doorstep, and
Yeah.
I was not really putting myself out there. Not only was I not putting myself out there and like letting myself be seen in a place where like I could maybe meet somebody, but I wasn't letting myself be approachable either. And like, I never really thought about it, like every time I go somewhere, like I'll have headphones in, like I feel like I always look like I'm just so focused on something, and like I wouldn't want to approach me either, probably,
Yeah, especially like whenever you're in your hometown and you just like don't feel like going to the same bars and all that stuff, so you just like stay at home on the weekends. So you're like, how am I supposed to find my future husband in this situation? Like, he's not going to just spawn automatically at my door. But sometimes you can dream about that. And something else about dating in our generation that kind of just like should be discussed is like all of the different like variations of date. Like, I feel like, how there's different like variations of religion, like there's like Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, like Christianity, all of that. I feel like in the same sense there's like so many different things for dating. Like, there's the talking stage, there's situationships, there's hookups, there's friends with benefits, there's being in an actual relationship, like there's emotionally unavailable. Like, there's so many different things, and I feel like it's so hard because so many people nowadays are just not straight up about what they want.
No, not at all. And like, sometimes I feel like even if they're not deliberately trying to like just tell you what you want to hear or lie to your face, they still don't fully, like, they might just have an idea in their head of what they think they want, but that's not actually it. And then you both kind of get screwed in the end.
Yeah, I feel like there's just like a surplus of single people right now because everyone's kind of just fed up with this whole sassy man apocalypse that we're in right now, which is basically, if you've never heard of that phrase, it's basically about how, like, as a girl, you were told, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, I don't chase, I attract. Basically, that's saying, like, what you put out is what will be given back to you. Like, don't go chase a guy, let him come to you, kind of thing. And now guys are starting to use that and run with it in a whole different direction, that they feel like they are the ones who should be pursued now. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
Right. That's why there's a surplus of singles.
Yeah, because girls are like, oh my gosh, he thinks he wants me to call him princess now. Like, is that what's happening? Like, literally.
Ew.
But I mean, in a sense, I do believe that guys should definitely like they deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
From what they're getting from women as well. Like, I don't think it's just like like the men suck kind of thing. I think it's women suck too. Like, I think everyone is just like playing games and not being as honest as we can be.
I think it definitely goes both ways, like you said. Like, like, as a woman, I want to be pursued. And, like, I want to know that, like, what I'm putting my time and energy and effort towards is being reciprocated the same way, But there's also, don't get me wrong, like I also know people who, like girls who just, they kind of like take and take and take, but they don't necessarily give back in that same way. And, you know, I feel like relationships, it's 50-50, like as it should be, you know?
Exactly. Sometimes I feel like my biggest ick that I feel like within myself is whenever I start fantasizing over a man that literally hasn't even taken me on a date yet.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This whole thing of, don't worry, I do that too sometimes. But I've also had people do that to me, and it creates just this unnecessary pressure on the situationship, if you want to call it. I think it's just, it's really toxic to yourself to think that you can just place these expectations on a person and expect them to live up to it, because more than not, like more times than not, they're not going to. Like, it's very hard to not think that way, but I feel like it's a very important thing to learn, and to just let people show you who they are. And when they show you who they are, believe them the first time, you know, and just, not everybody is gonna match your personality probably the way that you're hoping, and that's okay. And I feel like a hard pill to swallow sometimes is just setting a boundary there and kind of realizing like they're not a bad person, but this would not go very far if we got into a relationship. Like one of us is going to hurt the other. Like it's just not, it's going to turn into something unhealthy.
Yeah, and I feel like another thing, like going off of what you're saying, is like being self-aware and knowing when it is unhealthy and like when it is time to cut the line or like cut ties, because I feel like a big thing that a lot of people are missing right now is self-awareness, because like they're staying in situationships or relationships that aren't serving them anymore. Like you shouldn't be only receiving love and affection on Valentine's Day. Like that's really sad, and that makes me really sad, because a lot of these guys and girls on Valentine's Day who are in relationships still be Snapchatting other people. Like the story, like I feel like I've seen so many people on Valentine's Day who have been acting single all year post up in a 3-year relationship, and I'm like, whoa.
I cannot tell you how many, like I literally you were with me, we sat in the car for like a good 30 minutes, and I just removed so many boys that had Snapchatted me. And this is like within the last couple weeks, couple months. Some I had been honestly talking to since last summer. Okay, like I was not aware that they were all in these actual relationships.
Yeah,
okay.
literally.
They don't post they don't say anything about it.
Yeah, so like, how are you supposed to know about them?
How am I supposed to know? And then on Valentine's Day, they post up with all of them. So remove immediately. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
what was the point of that?
Literally, if you did not get posted on Valentine's Day, like you are literally in shackles right now. Like you are in a police car with your hands tied behind your back because you are in trouble, and it is time for you to run, because that person is doing you a disservice and trying to hide you because they don't want anyone else to know that they are in a relationship so they can remain acting single. So therefore, leave them. Please don't do the whole, oh, I don't know, like he's just filling my time.
You can't change him, babe.
No, you can't change him. You can't fix him. That's okay.
It's out of your control.
It's better to be alone than be with somebody who sucks. Like literally. Like, oh my god.
Or just at least doesn't make you feel like the center of attention. You know, and like I don't know. I didn't know, like whenever people, like boys that I had streaks with too, and like it was like a regular thing, you know, we kind of talked at least once a week or almost every day. Like there were some like that too, and they posted up with a whole girlfriend of like maybe a year even. So I'm like, hold up. Y'all were together whenever you added me and we started to, like, what?
Yeah, like how did you hide her that well? Like what? That is honestly impressive. But also like another thing that I feel like is lacking is the fact that, what else was I gonna say? Like, no, it wasn't.
Well, like I feel like something we tried to touch on, like when we were talking on Valentine's Day, was like there's this concept when you meet somebody or start talking to somebody. It's like the 3-month rule, kind of, where, you know, the honeymoon stage is the honeymoon stage for a reason, because everybody can put their best foot forward when you first meet them. I mean, it's really not hard to do that in the very beginning of a relationship, I feel like, or a situationship, because we've experienced both. It goes both ways.
Unfortunately.
But during that first initial stage, it's not that hard to really keep up the facade, I feel like, and to pretend that everything's going to be fine, because you're not thinking about the hard conversations that you should have in the future. You're not thinking about where you're going to be in the future. Like if, you know, things that you think about whenever you're trying to get serious with somebody. And once you get about 3 months into it is whenever the walls start to kind of get broken down. You see someone for who they really are, which doesn't mean that they're bad in any way and doesn't mean that they can't give you their best. It's just what they can give you might not be good for you and like the trajectory that your life has gone, you know, kind of like just the path that you're on. It just may not always work out the way you were hoping, which is kind of hard to accept. I feel like it's like a hard pill to swallow because in that 3 months you can also create such a strong bond and you can subconsciously create this expectation of somebody else, and then it makes it that much harder when you realize it's probably not going to work out the way you want it to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you kind of set yourself up for disappointment in a way.
Especially when, for all my anxiously attached girlies and boys out there, calling myself out on this one. So like, say for example, you're talking to somebody and you've been waiting for them to like text you and your day kind of revolves around them texting you or not. That is an anxiously attached individual, and that is something I want to learn more about, because that there is ways to break that and there are ways to heal from that and become like a securely attached individual. And I'm researching more about that, but I don't feel educated enough to make a whole episode about how to fix that because I'm still trying to. But like, my biggest thing is literally like I turned off my notifications so I don't even see it, and like I respond when I respond.
Yeah.
And I feel like that should also be something that you just let, like, you just kind of going back to the 3-month rule. I feel like it is best in the 3-month rule to stay friends with that person so that you can evaluate them and see what they're like in certain situations before you get into a relationship with them. Like, if I'm getting into a relationship with somebody, I want to know what they're like when they're hangry. I want to know what they're like when like they go to a restaurant, like how do they treat the servers. I want to know how they talk to their mom. I want to know if they have siblings. Like, there's certain things that like you want to see and observe so you can be like, okay, would this person be a good fit for my life? Like, would they make a good husband or wife, or would they make like a good partner in the future? Like, I don't know, maybe you're not even looking to be married or whatever, but like at that point, like why are you wasting other people's time then?
No, absolutely, I agree. I feel like also something to look for, kind of what you were saying, because we keep bringing up the 3-month thing. It's just such a crucial time period. I feel like I'm a huge supporter in like be friends before you start dating. You know,
100%.
Any situationship or relationship I've ever experienced, if it was like had hope of going somewhere past that, it was always because we were friends first, you know. And it's easier whenever you kind of establish that friendship first, because if you're going to be with someone, you want to make sure you actually like them, right? Like, you want to be able to be friends with them. And like, I've always said, like, when I get married, like, I want to be marrying my best friend.
100%.
Like the boy version of you.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm looking for. But I think something else to look for, too, in that earlier stage of talking or dating or whatever is love bombing.
Oh, my God.
Because that is also hard to pick up on at first, because it can be disguised in some ways, I feel like, and then
as compliments.
Right. Well, yes, that,
or as manipulation tactics and gaslighting.
As manipulation and gaslighting, which is how I've experienced it in the past. And it's kind of hard to differentiate like the compliments and like what they're trying to be sincere about from what they're trying to manipulate.
Yeah.
About. You know what I mean?
How they're trying to manipulate the situation, manipulate you to feel a certain way,
yeah,
to perceive them a certain way.
Right.
And I feel like also with that, it's important, like, if somebody ever asks you like what you look for, like on a first date or something, don't tell them what you want. Like, don't tell them what you're looking for in a partner, because that will literally allow them to be a chameleon and turn into those qualities that you're looking for, and they can literally grab you like that and like get you, hook you, and then like in 3 months later they're gonna be like, oops, just kidding, I'm a narcissist, I'm all this stuff, I'm crazy,
right?
And now you're stuck with me because you're attached to me, and yeah, you're too far in,
right? Like, you had this false reality of them, and then it just, like I said, like the 3 months happens, or whatever time frame around that, it just happens, and their walls start to come down, and you start to notice things, hopefully, unless, I mean, it's unfortunate, but some situations, I mean, you could be manipulated so much you don't even really see it, or you can't really get out of it for longer than 3 months, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I literally have been in situations where I'm like do I literally even like this person? Like, do I actually like this person, or
Right,
do
like-
I just like the attention that they're giving me?
Yes, that's a huge thing too. Is like the attention is nice sometimes, especially if you're bored. Look, hey,
Especially
we're both
as like
guilty.
a single person, and like there's nothing wrong with being single. There's
Not at
nothing
all.
wrong with being in a relationship. There's nothing wrong with talking to 1,000 people, as long as like you don't, hurt everyone that you're talking to.
Right.
But I mean, it just like it comes with common decency, like mutual respect. And I think that's where we're lacking. Not we, but like our generation dating
Yeah.
in 2024.
Yeah, I feel like there are some unrealistic expectations that get placed on situations. Let's say, for example, where you haven't met yet. So let's say it's a Tinder date or, quick ad, whatever. Find out y'all are near the same area. Y'all try to plan to go on a date or whatever. Let's just say, like, the week before the date, maybe like leading up to it, y'all are fine. Like, y'all are talking like normal. And then you get to the date and it's almost not the person you think you've been talking to. Like, has it ever happened to you?
Oh yeah.
Like, you get to the date and you're kind of just like either talking to a brick wall or talking to someone who obviously has just been telling you things you want to hear or has just been putting up a front. I mean, because it's easy to put up a front behind a screen, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like I've been on dates where I'm literally carrying the conversation on my back. Like one time I was on this date and like for starters, this man like instantly right whenever there's certain things that you need to be doing as a man, like right when you're picking up a girl, because if you don't do these things, like you're gonna instantly be like in my head there's like a list of things that if you do wrong, I'm never
ick.
speaking to you again.
It's an ick.
You will be
can't undo
blocked.
the ick.
Yeah, so like if first of all, if you don't come to my door, like strike number 1.
Standards, people.
If you don't open my door, strike number 2. And let's talk about strike number 3, which is paying. And I know this is a stingy, like taboo topic, but the truth is, if you ask somebody on a date, no matter the gender, if I ask a guy on a date, I should pay for him. But if a man asks me on a date, he should pay for me, and he shouldn't be like, oh, let's split 50-50 because like I need to see if you would be a good partner first. Like, no, you literally asked me on a date, sir. Like, if you want me to pay, I will pay for myself, but just know that we will never speak again, because this was not a date. This was going to dinner with a friend. Let's get into situationships. My least favorite part of dating in 2024. I was in a situationship my sophomore year of college, where I was like talking to this guy, and he just had gotten out of something and he was not ready for a relationship, but he still came on to me even though he said he wasn't ready. And of course I really liked him, and I started having feelings for him, and we were like hanging out every single day and doing the boyfriend and girlfriend activities. Like, he would come over to my house and like eat dinner with my family, which is like literally the weirdest thing. Like, looking back, like, what? We're not dating. Like, you should not be doing that. Don't do that. So it just makes it really confusing for both parties, because you're like, what is this? And how do you know when to like cut ties on that? How do you know when to get out of that?
I feel like situationships are the messiest of all the ships, because I mean, personally, I've had more situationships than actual relationships, just honestly due to the messy nature of them. I don't think they're always a bad thing, but I think that if you don't know, like you said, like when to properly cut ties or move forward, then you're just stuck in this endless loop of you're both unsure and you're kind of wasting each other's time, whether you mean to or not.
Yeah, like honestly waiting for a better option, it feels like.
Yeah, it's like you get strung along kind of, or maybe you're the person stringing them along, like it goes both ways. And I feel like it's hard to kind of stay in situations like that. Sorry, not hard. It's not hard to stay in a situation like that because it's comfortable for the time being. And then, I mean, one day you're either going to cut ties with that person because somebody else came along, or maybe y'all will progress forward, or maybe you'll bring up the conversation of putting a label on the relationship, right? But then you just come to find out they don't feel the same way, you know?
And that's when I think something that should be done is like cutting people off if you're in that situation, or like even in instances, like, I feel like I've been ghosted in situationships before, and like that shit sucks.
Yes.
And I feel like ghosting, I mean, I've ghosted people before.
Well,
I've been on both ends.
I think there's a difference between ghosting somebody that you don't owe anything to and ghosting someone you've been talking to for like a good couple weeks.
That's
you know?
so true, because I feel like I always come to you about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I owe this person an explanation as to why I'm ending things with them, because I always feel super bad about ending things with people, because like I love people so hard and I know what it's like to get overly invested into someone, so I don't like to make people feel bad in any type of way.
Yeah, well, and as someone who loves hard too, it's easy to start to kind of overcompensate whenever you're trying to give an explanation, I feel like, and then it's not like, it's kind of, I feel like, just goes in one ear and out the other of whoever you're trying to deliver the message to, and it just wastes your energy more than anything, whenever in reality, I mean, it's, y'all may have been talking for like 3 weeks, haven't met, like there's no real obligation for either of you to give the other anything in the relationship. If you have the feeling that this is just not going to go any further, cut it off. Like, why are we wasting time, you know? And it doesn't have to always be like a immediate ghosting of like, oh my God, like they blocked me, like they disappeared literally, you know? And it doesn't have to be a situation where you're rude about it or that leaves any animosity at all. It can just be as simple as having a mature adult conversation, being like, hey, I just need to let you know how I'm feeling. I don't think I can move any further with this relationship. It was good talking to you, but I need to move on.
Yeah.
You know, and then like wipe your hands and move on.
Yeah, and I feel like a common mistake a lot of people make is like taking that so personally, and they take it as like a character
flaw.
Yeah, they take it as like so personally, and they think that it's an attack on who they are as a person, when in reality it's usually like the other person has their own stuff going on, or they just are not in a place to be in a relationship, and that's not on you.
Right. And I'll be honest, I've been on both sides of it. So like
Same.
I have been on the side where I will get ghosted, like,
and take it so personally.
and I will take it personally, between knowing them for 5 hours and 5 weeks. Like, the time range, it doesn't really matter, you know. I will take it so to heart and just be like, well, like, what was wrong with me? Like, what
could I have done
issue?
better?
Right. And then one day roles got reversed, and I truly just, I was in a place where I couldn't focus on anyone else but myself, which is also not a bad thing. Like, being able to live your life with yourself at the center, I think, is a blessing. And I just knew that no matter how great this guy was, I mean, if it was meant to be, then we'll meet again some other time. But at the time, I just simply didn't have anything left in me to devote to that. Like, I was putting all of my eggs in my own baskets, and I was doing things for myself and my future, you know, just kind of doing my own thing. And I just wasn't fully convinced that that was the person that had been sent to come along and
sweep you off your feet.
Right. And just like match my path perfectly. Because like, I'm not against it. It's just like, when I have my own thing going on and I'm really focused on it, if you can come into my life and keep up and like we can match really well, then that's great. But if not, I'm gonna make sure that neither of our time gets wasted.
Yeah, and I feel like people are so closed off to the idea of being single because they're scared to be alone, but in reality, being single is so cool. Like, being single on Valentine's Day is such a flex, because like you don't have to worry. I mean, I was violently throwing up on Valentine's Day, so like I would give my Valentine's Day experience like a 2 out of 10, just because there was a nice man who told me and Cameron that we looked really beautiful, and that was really sweet.
That was sweet.
But the rest of that day I felt like garbage. But I mean, besides that was like, you don't have to worry about like a good morning text, or you don't have to, like, this is, especially as somebody in your 20s, like I feel like relationships are so romanticized right now, and like we're not talking about the real parts of a relationship where it's commitment, it's hard, it's like, it's not just a choice, it's not just a feeling, it's a choice. Like, you have to commit to being with that person instead of just being like, okay, I love this person, because some days like you have to choose to love a person instead of just saying I love that person, because you have to recommit to somebody every single day. Right.
It's definitely a choice. And I feel like being able to navigate, I mean, we're only 21. We've only been in our 20s.
I'm 22, but
okay,
she's 20. Yeah, same thing.
I feel like being able to like start your 20s and kind of live your early 20s focusing on only yourself is really just going to set you up better in the future, you know, like for like whenever you do decide to get into a relationship or you start dating later on, you just kind of you can be so sure of yourself that no matter who comes into or out of your life in the future is not going to break the foundation that you have, you know?
Yeah, and I also feel like going off of that, like it's so important to have that good foundation. And like we are so blessed to be single in our early 20s because like I know that for a fact it has allowed me to become so much pickier, and that has opened me up to a new like world of men that actually want and have good intentions for me. And like I think whenever you start setting your standards higher, you are able to unlock that. Because if I'm still settling for like Jake, the frat boy who literally does whippets on the Mardi Gras streets, like literally, no, that's me settling for something that's less than what I deserve. And by saying no and like taking that and allowing myself to just be alone, it allows you to get, first of all, more confidence and respect for yourself, because you're like, no, I'm not gonna go with this freaking gremlin of a man, like, no, of a boy, like, I'm not gonna be with this guy who literally like is crazy. No, I'm not doing that. And once you start having like that self-respect, I feel like that instantly attracts like way more people, because people are attracted to things that are hard to get.
Absolutely.
That's just the nature.
It is. And I think that since we're also at such a vulnerable age, really, like this is the part of life, like I feel like you do the most growing and hurting and falling down and getting back up and trying again and doing new things and moving and, you know, just exploring life to the fullest, you know. It's very much crucial now to be able to establish your own identity and your own standards and what you want and be able to stay true to that for the rest of your life, you know, because then you can kind of ensure your own happiness in a way.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's really detrimental to make sure that the person that you are going after is on the same like wavelength as you. Like, do they think the same things as you? Do they want the same things in life as you? And I'd be on the first dates asking all kinds of questions like that. Like, I'm that type of girl, like, on a date where I'm getting all of the stuff that I need to know immediately out of the way, because I'm not going to go on a second date with you if there's things that won't work.
Right. And they don't necessarily have to be huge red flags either. It can just be things that you know you're not going to see eye to eye on.
Like, I'm not going to compromise on.
Right. Like, you don't want to compromise on. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we have our own things that we are not going to compromise, as I'm sure the other person does too. And if you can't meet in the middle, that's okay. You just move on. That means they're not the one, you know?
Yeah. And I just feel like overall, I think being single is so looked down upon and has such like this bad stigma. But once you finally get comfortable with who you are as a person and like spending time by yourself, you kind of don't even want to get into a relationship, because you see all of the trash that people are putting up with and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even think I could think about being in a relationship. Like, because sometimes I really want to be in a relationship. As I've said, I'm the type of girl who is built for a relationship, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I need to be in one.
Yeah. And I feel like one of the biggest things I've learned, honestly, since starting college, like since meeting you too, and something that you and Elizabeth have both taught me the most, is that if you are not fully sure of yourself, like, how are you going to be sure of yourself when you get into a relationship and try to share yourself with somebody else?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because that can turn into a whole like identity crisis. Like, that can just turn into a whirlwind of bad things, and it's a shame, because then when that inevitably ends and someone gets hurt, it's like you got to do all the rebuilding, you know?
Yeah, and I've literally been in situations at a point. There's a point when I didn't love myself, and in those situations when a guy would like me, I would literally be like repulsed at the fact that he liked me, because I was like, how does this man like me? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're disgusting for that. Because if you don't love yourself and you don't see yourself as somebody who deserves love and like somebody who deserves respect, then how are you going to think that you deserve it from them. You're not going to fully allow yourself to be open to that idea. And I feel like so many people are so closed off to the idea of love now because they've been hurt so many times and wrong so many times. But I just want to spread that message that just because you've been hurt does not mean that you should give up on that idea of love. It means you should just guard your heart a little bit more, maybe be a little bit more protective and picky.
Selective.
Yeah, protective and picky and selective about who you talk to, who you date, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're just closing yourself off to one step closer to finding your soulmate, honestly. And I think you still deserve love. You still have that magic in you. And just because somebody can't recognize it at that time in your life is not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on them and the situation. It's literally like, don't make the things that whenever people break up with you, like, don't take that so personally. I know that's so much easier said than done, because like I definitely
like
break
the
up
two girls who haven't had a boyfriend in like 3
yeah, like I've been hello. I'm like, what is that when the AA like hi I'm L and I'm single.
Hi L.
Hi, I'm Elle and I'm single. Like literally that's what it feels like. But I mean, honestly, at this point
you can learn just as much by observing as you can doing. I feel
oh my
like.
gosh,
so
yeah, like
I
literally.
feel like yeah.
I've seen so many things and instances and people that I'm like, okay, I don't want that because I see that happening to my friend over there. Therefore, I'm going to eliminate that type of guy out of my roster. Like, no.
Save yourself a little, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think just with like having the long distance relationships, like, what do you think about that?
Oof. I think that, I feel like it's so stereotyped, but I really do truly believe that some people are built for it and some people are not. It's hard to tell which one you are, but
I don't think I'm built for them.
I
have to be really in love with something. Like, I don't know, actually. I've never been in one.
That's why I feel like I can't say if I am or not, because I've never felt that like deep, unwavering type of love with a man before that just made me think that we're going to conquer the world no matter like what distance is between us. And I want that, you know, like that's the end goal. And like, if that ever has to happen, cool. Like I know we'll get through it, but like, I've just not felt that yet. So I personally can't speak on that. I feel like from what I've heard from friends that long distance is definitely harder than it looks, you know? And people are like, oh, well, like if you just make time to communicate every day, like it's fine, but that's obviously easier said than done. I mean, how many times this week specifically have you and I tried to record this episode or talk about something? Like things come up, you know, life happens. And especially if you're hundreds of miles apart or God forbid in a different time zone, like I can't imagine how difficult that must be on top of the life that you're already trying to build.
Oh my gosh.
Why you're probably in 2 different places of the country is because you're probably both doing something for work, and it's important, you know, like there's a reason nobody's just like, I love you, let's like there's one live in California and one live in North Carolina.
Yeah,
like,
y'all both didn't like end your lives just like go. You didn't follow somebody,
right.
And that's like important too. And something that literally gives me so much anxiety about thinking about long distance relationships is like the possibility of them cheating on me or the possibility of me becoming like the couch girl or couch boy. And if you don't know what that is, it's a thing on TikTok. It was like a video on TikTok where this girl went to go visit her boyfriend at college and they were long distance and he had like a whole other girl in his room. Wait, no.
Yeah, well, it's something like that. It was supposed to be like a surprise, and then
I don't think he had a girl
in
in his room. I think he just gave her the worst the worst hug possible. Like it was literally like
he was like hiding a girl or something.
Yeah, like he didn't even hug her. It was just like a really not fun hug. Like it was just very bland, and I don't know. I would just be so scared of like being in a relationship with somebody and they're like possibly hiding a whole other person from me. Like that sounds scary because I've seen too many horror stories of like long distance relationships, especially when they're like so easily cheating on you, and then you catch them and you like they have like a whole other kid.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
I think the biggest takeaway for dating in 2024 is to just like go with the flow, be flexible, don't take everything so personally. If something doesn't work out, just know that there's something better out there for you. So aggravating to hear that, but it's so true.
It is. I sound like a broken record saying this too, but it's something my mom always told me too. She was like, what's really meant for you and what's in your life's plan from God is never actually going to pass you by. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, and it's like so much easier said than done with somebody who has like chronic anxiety.
Right.
But I mean, you can just remind yourself that as much as you can, and hopefully at some point it'll stick. But I think the second biggest takeaway from this is have higher standards for yourself. Like, don't be in something that doesn't serve you just because it's fun and you're bored. I mean, there's a difference between having like a fling or something and being bored, but like being in a whole relationship with somebody that you're not even interested in is actually terrible.
Right. Or being with somebody who they may be great, honestly, all green flags, they're giving you everything they can. But if there's still something missing, or it's not quite what you've envisioned for yourself, or like the standards that you have, that doesn't mean that they're not doing their best for you. It just means that their best can't meet yours. And that's okay too. And that's also a point when you kind of have to think of cutting the cord, because I mean, that's only going to grow resentment.
Yeah. And like the third most important thing is being self-aware, and basically what she just said. In other words, knowing when to leave a situation, knowing when to bow out gracefully, or starting something up that could be really good for you. Like, just because they don't seem like the one that you would normally go for doesn't necessarily mean it's always the worst idea. Like, sometimes the weirdest like outliers are the ones that are the best, like make the best boyfriends or girlfriends, like, honestly.
If
but
anything, you'll learn something new about yourself.
Yeah, but we have a lot of homework and we're slammed with school, so we really need to get back to that. But thanks you guys for listening. Thank you, Cameron, for coming on.
You're welcome, Boost.
Like, subscribe, comment, and leave some more suggestions on what to do for these episodes. If you like me having guests on the episodes, let me know. If you want to have a solo episode with just me and you, feel free to let me know. But with that, stay savage, stay sexy, and stay tuned for another episode of What the L every Friday.